The film opens with a scenic view of a beach, though its specific name and location are never revealed. A group of approximately 15 teenagers is seen partying along the shore at night. During the celebration, a young man named Mitch establishes a strict rule. No one is allowed to use their phones. To enforce this, all their mobile devices are collected and locked in the trunk of a car. Shortly after, two guys arrive carrying a large, slime-covered object they claim to have found nearby on the beach. Unbeknownst to them, this strange artifact will soon bring disaster upon the group. By morning, Kaylee wakes up first inside the beach house, followed by Mitch. As they look out, they see their friends asleep in or around the cars. Kaylee is devastated to discover her boyfriend Jonah sleeping with her friend Chanda, confirming his infidelity. Meanwhile, Vance and his brother Ronnie wake up in the back seat, while another girl, Marcia, finds herself stranded on a beach chair. Suddenly, Kaylee spots a seagull foraging near the water. Without warning, the bird is violently sucked into the sand. Marcia, still groggy, attempts to step down from her chair. Kaylee screams at her not to touch the sand, but it's too late. As soon as Marcia's foot makes contact, she becomes immobilized, as if the sand has turned into quicksand. Panic ensues. Vance jumps out of the car to help her, but the moment he lands on the sand, he too becomes trapped. He falls face first into the ground, and horrifyingly, something beneath the surface begins to devour him. His face is torn apart before both he and Marcia are completely swallowed by the sand, killing them instantly. Shocked and terrified, the survivors realize they need to call the police, only to remember their phones are locked in the car trunk. Blame immediately falls on Mitch for enforcing the no-phone rule. To make matters worse, they realize they had trespassed onto a closed beach, known for its heavily polluted waters. Inside the car, Jonah attempts to start the engine, but it fails to turn over. He realizes with dread that he forgot to replace the dead battery before their trip, leaving them stranded. Meanwhile, Kaylee's curiosity gets the better of her. Intrigued by the creature beneath the sand, she dangles her hand over the surface to lure it out. Sure enough, thin, hair-like tendrils emerge from the grains, revealing the strange nature of the threat. At that moment, their friend Gilbert wakes up, only to find himself trapped inside a large trash bin. Panicked, he begins shaking the bin violently. His friends scream at him to stop moving, warning him about the deadly sand. Shocked and terrified after learning that two of their friends have already been consumed, Gilbert freezes, forced to remain still inside the bin for his own survival. As time passes, the group waits in silence, hoping for rescue. Ronnie, grieving the loss of his girlfriend, writes a farewell letter to his mother, fearing he won't make it out alive. With no food or water, they are left waiting for an uncertain fate. It slowly dawns on them that the rest of the partygoers from the night before are gone, swallowed by the beach. Only 6 of them remain. Nearby, Kaylee notices that the large, slime-covered object found the previous night has split open. Ronnie realizes it looks like a hatched egg, concluding that the creatures in the sand likely emerged from it. The polluted seawater may have mutated marine life into these unseen horrors. Desperate for supplies, Jonah devises a plan to retrieve Marcia's bag, which is nearby. He spots 2 surfboards behind the car and uses them as stepping stones to cross the sand without touching it. He places one board down, steps on it, then moves the other forward. However, as he nears the chair where the bag is located, the board beneath him shifts, sliding away from his reach. Struggling to keep his balance, Jonah tries desperately to avoid contact with the ground, but parasitic tendrils burst from the sand and graze his stomach. He manages to leap onto the safety of the chair, but the damage is done. His stomach is wounded, and he immediately shows signs of severe poisoning, his face turning pale. Gasping in pain, he describes the sensation as being stung by 1,000 jellyfish. Despite his agony, he opens Marcia's bag and finds several canned drinks. One by one, he distributes the water to his thirsty friends, offering a small moment of relief amidst the horror. As Jonah tossed a drink to Mitch, he was suddenly struck by intense pain. The shock caused Mitch to stumble back, crashing into the wooden edge of the stairs and loosening the structure. Jonah's stomach wound had worsened, oozing pus, and the agony left him collapsed on the chair, unable to move. The remaining 5 friends grew increasingly desperate, unsure of how to survive. They realized their only hope was to retrieve their phones from the car trunk. Ronnie attempted to pry the trunk open by stepping on the bumper. Just as it began to creak open, a patrol car arrived, blaring its horn relentlessly. Startled, Ronnie slipped, trapping his right hand in the closing trunk lid. He cursed the officer for arriving at the worst possible moment, causing him unnecessary injury. The man behind the wheel was the local beach guard. He demanded to know why Kaylee and her friends were trespassing on a closed beach. Kaylee tried to explain that there was something deadly beneath the sand, but the skeptical guard stepped out of his vehicle to investigate. Surprisingly, the parasites did not attack his feet. Confused, the group wondered why he remained unharmed while they were trapped. Mitch quickly realized the reason. The guard was wearing sturdy leather shoes. Despite this revelation, the arrogant guard ordered Kaylee and Mitch to come closer. When they refused, he threatened them with pepper spray. In his agitation, he dropped his car keys onto the sand. As he bent down to retrieve them, his hand became heavy and immobilized. Kaylee shouted at him to use the pepper spray on the emerging parasites. He complied, spraying the creatures, but it was too late. His hand was severed, bleeding profusely, before he was violently pulled down and consumed by the sand. Witnessing this, Mitch understood the critical importance of foot protection. He planned to wrap his feet in a towel and make a run for it. Chanda threw him a towel, but as Mitch moved, the loose stair railing gave way. He fell onto the sand, and immediately, the parasites began to devour him. His legs and arms were slowly dragged underground as his friends watched in horror, paralyzed by fear. In a moment of panic-inspired clarity, Kaylee came up with a plan. She ripped off the loose wooden plank from the broken stairs and handed it to Chanda, who was still safe inside the car. Kaylee leaped from the beach house onto the patrol car. Together with Chanda, she helped free Ronnie's trapped fingers. Once released, his injured hand was immediately wrapped in a thick towel. Meanwhile, Gilbert, still trapped in the trash bin, began to bleed heavily as the parasites gnawed at his lower body. Kaylee and Chanda placed the wooden plank across the gap to reach Jonah's chair. Chanda crossed first, carefully balancing herself, and made it safely. Kaylee followed suit, also reaching the chair without incident. However, when it was Ronnie's turn, he slipped and fell onto the sand. In an instant, the swarm of parasites dragged him under, consuming him completely before his friends could react. Unbeknownst to them, the parasites had also begun burrowing into the bottom of Gilbert's trash bin. Chanda devised a plan to reach the patrol car. Remembering Mitch's advice, she wrapped her feet in towels and sprinted toward the vehicle, successfully climbing aboard. But suddenly, Gilbert began coughing up blood. The parasites had breached the bin from below. Within seconds, he was sucked into the sand and vanished forever. To make matters worse, Chanda slipped and hit her head, knocking herself unconscious. With no other options, Kaylee and the ailing Jonah could only wait for Chanda to wake up. By nightfall, Chanda regained consciousness. She discovered a life raft on top of the patrol car. Without hesitation, she deployed it and jumped down to retrieve Kaylee and Jonah one by one. They stood on the raft to avoid the sand and climbed back into the vehicle. Tragically, Jonah's condition had deteriorated too far. He died inside the car from the parasitic infection. Kaylee had hoped he might drive them to safety, but instead they were left stranded, unable to drive themselves. The next morning, a man appeared at the car window, waking the two survivors. Strangely, he was able to stand on the sand unharmed. Realizing he was safe, Kaylee and Chanda stepped out onto the beach, finally free from the immediate threat. The film ends with a chilling scene. The parasites are shown swimming through the water, heading toward another beach. In the end, the only survivors of this disaster were Kaylee and Chanda, Jonah's girlfriend, and his mistress. Jonah himself was not so lucky.